on everyone? It's Ozzy from OzTalksHW, and this video is going to be a little bit of a journey explanation, whatever you want to call it, as to why I currently have about $1,200 worth of computer parts inside of a $40 budget computer case. Now that might seem a little bit weird considering that a lot of tech YouTubers have very extravagant setups, cases, parts, whatever you want to call it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. This isn't a shame video of any kind of sorts, but I decided to simplify things for myself, and here's why. So the first version of this computer was a Ryzen 7 1700 with a Noctua NHU14S CPU cooler, 16 gigs of Corsair DDR4 memory clocked at about 3000 megahertz. I had a Gigabyte Gaming K5 X370 motherboard on there. And then I had an RX 480 and a Zephyr 750 watt power supply I bought from Craigslist a few years back for like 25 bucks. As time went on, I eventually upgraded my parts. My BitPhoenix Aurora case, which was housing the components at the time, it was about $100 for that case, and it was huge. I ended up selling off and I picked up a mini ITX case because I wanted to tread the waters there a little bit. And then after that, I eventually changed out the power supply because it was old and crummy. I didn't want my parts to die, and I used a CS550M that Corsair sent for a previous video. I didn't need it for anything, so I just popped it into my main computer. After going mini ITX for a while, I switched to the BitPhoenix Nova TG, which was my current case until my recent switch, the case that I have here, the Cooler Master Q300L. As time went on and I became more invested into the channel and the community, I started to take less care of the things that I own, specifically my computer build. Inside of the BitPhoenix Nova TG, my setup was pretty much in shambles. For one, the Nova TG had very little airflow. As you can see, it only had a side grill, and even that mesh design was pretty restricted. On top of that, my Corsair CS550M power supply, it just wouldn't work. Eventually, I had to take out the RX 480 because it couldn't power on anymore. So I had to switch that out with the GTX 1050 Ti. It was the fastest card I had at the time that did not require any kind of external power. Just to add a little bit more insult to injury, at the time I didn't have a lot of resources and funds flowing into the channel, so I didn't have a dedicated test bench. So a lot of the components that I used to test came out of my own setup. And with that being said, I would often take out my 1050 Ti, use it for testing, put it back in, but I wouldn't properly place it or screw it back in to my computer just because I would be taking it out so frequently. It just made it a lot more convenient to leave it there unscrewed. As the channel began to grow and I became more invested into it, companies started noticing more and more just the kind of reach that OzTalksHW and the brand had. So AMD was kind enough to send over a reference Vega 56 for testing, and in my off time I could have used it in my main rig for any kind of video editing or work purposes, but because of that Corsair power supply, it just didn't happen. This past December I did the $500 gaming PC build with a full how-to build guide, and I used the Cooler Master Q300L, and I fell in love. This case is awesome. Even though it only supports a Marco ATX form factor, it has tons of modularity, has tons of airflow. It looks nice and clean and professional. There's not too many flashy lights going on or anything that's overbearing, and for the price, it's a great purchase. And then come this early January, I moved back into my current place, which is on campus, and I was moving all my stuff back in, and I looked at my main computer and I just noticed how bad it was. Not in terms of specifications, just quality of life. I just wasn't taking care of my own things. I took everything out of the previous case, I kept what I could salvage, and I currently just put away what I couldn't use, such as the power supply, and I switched it over to the Cooler Master Q300L, and it looks great. Although I had to downgrade my motherboard from the X370 model to a B450 Micro ATX model, I wouldn't have it any other way. My Ryzen CPU is running at stock, so it's efficient enough where the VRMs won't completely die because of the amount of pressure the CPU is putting on the rest of the system. I'm still using the same CPU cooler, but this time I have better airflow, so temperatures will undeniably be much lower. My Vega 56 looks phenomenal in the case, and it's currently being powered a Seasonic Focus Gold 550M that Seasonic was kind enough to send out a few months ago. And the case itself just resembles something much better than I could have expected. I'm not a super peppy, super energetic person. I'm more kind of laid back, a little bit more gentle, and I want my case to resemble that. And this case definitely does resemble a lot about myself. I don't need anything more than the Q300L that I have right now, and it fits perfectly for what I want to do. So to recap, the reasons why I have $1,000 to maybe $1,400 worth of computer hardware in such a cheaper, budget-oriented case is one, it's exactly what I need. I don't need anything more, so there's no point in me spending any more. Two, it's such an upgrade from before. Before I had things sprawled everywhere. The quality of life of the computer itself just wasn't very good. And lastly, which I haven't mentioned yet, I think this is more symbolic of what I want my 2019 to be. I think self-care is very important, and included in self-care is taking care of the things that you own, and I didn't really do that before. Going into 2019, I really wanted to make a lot of expansions, a lot of endeavors into so many different types of things, but I'm starting to realize now just like how much stuff I'm already blessed with and how I should already take care of the stuff that I have, including something as nominal as my computer setup. It's just an act of maintenance. I think simple acts like that can really make or break someone's journey, can really make or break someone's self-care and self-worth, and it's the little things that build up to something much bigger. It reminds me earlier today when I went to go to FedEx to pick up a package, they had this advertisement, this banner with this guy who was starting his own business, and the advertisement was for business cards or whatever, and he was a barber, and he was giving this guy this like super clean lineup, and he was looking super fresh, but the barber himself had like this like thick straggly beard, and he had like a haircut from like 2004 with like the spiky like mohawk middle part thing, whatever it's called. And it's like, dude, you're a barber and you're doing all this wonderful stuff for your clients, but you can't even do the same for yourself. And that was even more of a wake-up call to me, because, you know, that's kind of where I was before. Like, I love giving you guys advice. I love making videos of this sort. I love computers, but I think there's also a point where I should practice what I preach. With all of that being said, I'm absolutely in love with my Q300L, and I can't wait to, you know, take care of it, as weird as that sounds. I feel like this whole session or this whole build process was really cathartic, and it helped me kind of realize, you know, there's so many things God has blessed me with. I need to take care of them. So that's kind of what I'm doing. With all that being said though, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, then leave a like. And if you loved it, subscribe and share. And I will have a new video hopefully out next week, a week from today around the same time. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.